double header Sunday in Vivo IPL this year. Two very interesting matches coming up. And to get all the fantasy predictions, I am joined at this hour by our fantasy gully expert, KKR. Karthik, thank you very much for once again being on the show to give us those little nuggets on how to make the fantasy team. Where Kolkata versus Bangalore, battle of all-rounders. Give us all the all-rounder picks.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Rika, for welcoming me on the show. Moving straight away to the all-rounders, well, three all-rounders, a sure shot pick, Andre Russell, Glenn Maxwell, and Shahbaz Ahmed. Shahbaz Ahmed was superb in his previous game. Andre Russell has been a revelation. But one such person, Glenn Maxwell, who has intrigued everyone is because of his patchy form in the IPL. So this season, 2 matches, he has done phenomenally well. He's given you an average of 50 fantasy points. And now if you look at his next opposition, that is KKR, he has been dismissed 4 times by pacers, by their pacers that is, and 7 times by their spinners. But if you look at the KKR spin squad, apart from Sunil Narayan, there is no other bowler currently who has dismissed Glenn Maxwell. And in this tournament, KKR spinners are not doing well. So Glenn Maxwell could give you plenty of fantasy points in this game.
Would you say that this would be the season of redemption for Glenn Maxwell, given that he has flattered to deceive, but in the last 2 matches that he's played for Bangalore, he has shown glimpses of what the big show could be?
Clarity of thought is a big factor. There was a statement that Glenn Maxwell does better for Australia than in the IPL. The reason being, in the IPL, his role is not clear. If Virat Kohli can give him a fixed batting position and assure him that he gets some overs to bowl, especially in the power play, definitely we can see a redemption factor in terms of Glenn Maxwell. Also, the last 3 innings that he has bowled against KKR, he's picked up 3 wickets. So pretty big reason for Virat Kohli to give Maxwell the ball.
Very interesting there. And what about the batting? Both the teams have very different, batting setup. Who are the top batsman picks from this game?
Well, rather than going into the names, let's do it a little bit differently this time. The thing being, in this tournament, strangely, every team's middle order has been struggling. Last night, we saw what happened with Hyderabad and also with Mumbai. But we have a different thing with Bangalore. Bangalore have their middle order performing as compared to the top order. Reason being, you have AB de Villiers, Glenn Maxwell and Virat Kohli. Although Virat Kohli comes in the top half, they are in that supreme form. Whereas for Kolkata, your top half is performing basically due to Nitish Rana and Rahul Tripathi. So if you are selecting your batsmen, top order, prefer Kolkata, middle order, prefer Bangalore.
Very interesting there. Top order, prefer Kolkata, and middle order, prefer Bangalore. Would you give us the names now of the batsmen?
Oh, yeah, sure. If you want top order batsmen from Kolkata, you can go for Nitish Rana and Rahul Tripathi. For Bangalore, you have to pick Virat Kohli. That's a given. AB de Villiers is your wicket keeper.
So in your fantasy team, you're making Virat Kohli bat in the middle order?
Yeah, absolutely. Because in our fantasy team, it doesn't matter where you fit in that. It's not called as a middle order. It's you have 4 batsmen. So Virat Kohli will open for Bangalore, but it'll still feature in your batting lineup in the fantasy level. Nitish Rana will open as well. Rahul Tripathi comes in at 3 and etc.
I think the other interesting thing that we've seen in this edition of the IPL is that the first 2 matches, pacers dominated, and then it's all been the spinners IPL, spin dominating, except of course last night, Bumrah and Bolt once again choked the opposition. What are your thoughts on spin dominating this season of IPL so far? We've seen 9 matches.
Yes, we have seen 9 matches, and if you particularly consider Chennai, which is considered as a spinner's heaven, it's split into 2 halves. So the first 2 games you had spinners taking 7 wickets. The next 2 spinners have taken 13 wickets. That's almost double. Also, this particular match is a day game. That's at 3:30. That means no dew is on offer. Spin definitely can play a big role.
Well, let's talk about game number 2 of the day, Punjab versus Delhi. Somewhat like a boxing match that promises to sizzle in the beginning, fizzle in the end, because of the power-packed performers that both sides have in the top of the order. Give us your top picks from this match.
not that difficult to decide based on the form. So we have Rishabh Pant and Avesh Khan simply because how they have performed in this particular tournament. Rishabh Pant especially in the last match. And from Punjab, you already have KL Rahul any which ways. But I will also go for Shah Rukh Khan, who impressed a lot in the previous game. Another guy who impressed was Mohammad Shami. So these would be my top picks for this particular game.
Right. And Mohammad Shami, despite Chennai cruising to victory, he picked up those 2 quick wickets and he justified his fantasy points in the last game. Karthik, talking about fast bowlers today, once again, it'll be the battle of 2 fast bowlers in this second game. Enrique Nokia, who's reported fit. We saw him bowling at the Delhi Nets yesterday up against Tom Curran.
So Tom Curran has been a disappointment, not only this season, but for the past 2 seasons. And on comparison with Enrique Nokia, honestly, I think Enrique Nokia just overwhelms him simply because of his form. He was in form against Pakistan as well for South Africa in the 2 series that happened. And he's giving you on an average 35 fantasy points, which is very good for a fast bowler as compared to Tom Curran, who's barely giving you 21.
What about the high risk picks from this game?
Oh, there are plenty of high-risk picks. So, for instance, let's look at a couple of batsmen, Prithvi Shaw and Mayank Agarwal. On their day, they can be super good, but both of them have struggled to live up to their expectations.
Either sizzle or fizzle.
Yeah, correct. And another batsman who has actually disappointed is Nicholas Pooran, but he falls in that inverted commas middle order bracket, which has not done well for any team. So, these are the high-risk picks for this particular match.
Okay, overall, give me your fantasy team for this game.
Oh, well, I would go with KL Rahul as a wicket keeper for sure, and I would not leave out Rishabh Pant. So I have got 2 batsmen, beg your pardon, 2 wicket keepers rather, 3 batsmen, 2 all-rounders, and I'll go in with 4 bowlers. Now, I'll just include a bit of a risky factor in this. A due factor is going to be the key because this is the night game at this particular venue.
Mumbai, yeah.
So maybe I'll go in with 1 less spinner and pack my team with either fast bowling all-rounders or pure fast bowlers.
Right. So if you are making your fantasy team, then you can go to ndtv.com or fantasycully.com. Right after the toss, you will have several options to choose from. And it's an interesting game. Try your hand at it and it'll add to your skills of being a cricket fan, because in addition to being a cricket fan, you can now become a cricket expert as well. Thank you very much, Karthik, for joining me on the show.
Thank you. Yeah.